Well everybody, I've been meaning to make a follow-up video to my Garthim from the Dark Crystal creatures. And here we go, we're going to be doing the Skeksis today. This is Monsters of Folklore. At the close of the Age of Harmony, the Second Great Conjunction occurred and marked the beginning of the Age of Division. During the Great Conjunction, the urSkeks stepped into the light of the suns that filtered through the crystal and refractured through the urSkeks mirror. Now unintentionally, the urSkeks were split into two separate creatures. That's where the Skeksis come from, and then you have the Uru. Now the Skeksis pretty much are the bad ones, and the Uru are the good ones. The Skeksis were the personification of their destructive, cruel, and aggressive impulses, while the Uru were the personification of their creativity, healing, and passive impulses. For every Uru, there is a corresponding Skeksis. Immediately following the split, confused fighting erupted. Two Skeksis and therefore two Uru were murdered. Now, destructive behavior continued, and one of the Skeksis struck the crystal and cracked it. This resulted in release of energy, and I believe I'm saying the energy named here correctly. It's called the Kakoi. It broke off a dagger-shaped shard and everything changed. The crystal darkened, turning from pure bright white to dimly glowing violet. And with the darkening of the crystal, so too did the world turn dark. A blighting wasteland slowly and inexorably crept from the castle, and strange creatures began appearing throughout Thra's wilderness. And here is what the Skeksis basically are. Now, they're reptilian and bird-like creatures with long necks and 6 limbs. They have 4 arms and they got 2 legs. The Skeksis are kind of like a raptor-looking type creature, like birds basically. And they're very cruel. Now, the Skeksis are thousands of years old. Despite their current state, the Skeksis were not always cruel and merciless. Some were gregarious and outgoing, while others preferred to keep their secrets in solitude. But time and power corrupted the hearts and the minds of the Skeksis lords, turning their intelligence to suspicion and their ambition into bloodthirsty competition. By the time of the events of the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which is the Netflix TV show, the Skeksis have become a villainous group of selfish, sadistic lords who rule over the Gelfling. They are vain, they're callous, pompous, and they're obsessed with cheating death. Because the Skeksis are not originally from Thra, they have been able to use their advanced technology to keep the more primitive and rustic Gelfling under their thumb and dependent on their generosity. They built a castle around the Crystal of Truth and harnessed its powers in secret in order to extend their own lives. Their experiments have corrupted the Crystal of Truth and created a sickness that is spreading across Thra known as the Darkening. They essentially draw energy from the land to keep themselves alive. Now, however, the Gelfling remain unaware, and they continue to be loyal to the Skeksis, who rule over them. Now, while the Gelflings strive for peace, the Skeksis enjoy nothing more than sadistic games and cruelty. They love the finer things in life, and they spend their days adorned in very illustrious robes and garnished jewelry. Now, feasting and loafing about their huge castle, they hide their villainous nature behind a smile to the Gelflings, but their love of a good party and a fancy necklace hides a deep fear of their own mortality and an obsession with cheating death. Even the music they listen to, and they do love a good tune now, might sound discordant and screechy to our ears because they themselves are discordant and screechy. All they care about is themselves and their own pleasure. And the way they're able to cheat death basically is they use the crystal and try to, steal the life force of little podlings, the Gelflings, and just anything they can get their hands on basically. Now, after the initial shock of the cracking of the crystal, the Skeksis settled into their roles as Lords of the Dark Crystal, led by Emperor Skekso. They played the role of extravagant hosts to both the Gelflings and the podlings alike, holding grand feasts and games. Now, meanwhile though, over the course of hundreds of time, the Skeksis went from eccentric nobles to mad despots. With the passage of time, their powers began to fade. The Skeksi scientist called Skektek experimented with the Dark Crystal. He discovered how to use the refracted light of the crystal to drain the essence and weaken the will of the Gelflings and the podlings, turning them into mindless slaves. Now, this final act shocked the Gelflings, and they wondered why would the Skeksis harm them. The Skeksis provided no answers other than to cull more of the Gelflings for use as slaves and source of essence. And leading up to the Garthim Wars, when the Skeksis learned of the prophecy that a Gelfling would pretty much heal the crystal, they immediately sought to thwart it. In their madness and paranoia, they created the Garthim soldiers and crystal bat spies, dispatching them to hunt down and exterminate the Gelfling. They even manufactured false shards to hinder the Gelfling in their quest to heal the crystal. Now, ultimately, the Skeksis were seemingly successful in eliminating all the Gelflings but 2 of them. You had Jen and Kira, and that is where the Dark Crystal movie picks up. It is very interesting of how they make the movie and the TV show. It's strictly puppets, and I forget how many people it took to do the movie, the TV show, and it's really cool. What I like about the Netflix series is they don't really use CGI for the puppets. They actually use real puppets and things like that. But the Skeksis, they're pretty cool. They are strange. When I was a child, I was more terrified of the Garthim than it was the Skeksis. It's because to me the Garthim, the music, and I guess they're giant crabs, it scared me when I was a child. And I think the actual movie, The Dark Crystal, came out, I believe it was in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. But everybody, that's what the Skeksis are. There is a whole lot about the Skeksis, I guess, if you want to dive deeper into it. But this was pretty much their origin, some history, the description, and things like that. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, comment your opinion of what you thought about the Skeksis. Go check out the Garthim video if you don't know exactly how they were made. It's pretty interesting. This is Monsters Folklore, and I'll see y'all later.